Aloha, my name is Jack Music, and you are watching the Etheric Warriors Radio Hour. This is episode number 3, which is part 2 of our interview with Cassandria of Quebec, Orgone. Here in Nishihara, Okinawa, today is Sunday, December 15th, 2013, and Cassandria is in Panama right now, where it's Saturday, December 14th. Find her online at quebecorgone.com and at soulsynthesis.com. Cassandria is a conscious sound designer and a healer. She's been studying various energy healing modalities for over 10 years. She's an avid researcher, and she's well known in alternative energy research circles for her work with Orgone energy. In 2003, she founded Quebec Orgone, which is one of the leading manufacturers of Orgone healing devices. She built the website ethericfire.com in 2004 for DB. She releases techno and tech house music, performing worldwide under the name Cassandria Diva. Her other interests include visual art forms, web and graphic design, videography, sound and lighting design, tantra, yoga, and freediving. She won the Canadian National Depth Freediving Championship in 2012. Cassandria spends a lot of time both in her studio workshop in Montreal and aboard her sailboat Aqua Soul, which is currently anchored in Panama, and I'm really excited to be joining Cassandria while she's in Panama today. So as I mentioned, check her out online at quebecorgone.com and at soulsynthesis.com. So let's bring Cassandria on. Hello, Cassandria.
Hello, Jack. How are you?
I'm excellent. How are you today?
Very good, thanks. Recovering from a lot of traveling, leaving from Canada and making my way all the way down here in the middle of the jungle, literally. Took 2.5 days to get here. And I arrived a couple of days ago, and slowly but surely I'm adapting to this new environment and getting this different beat down here. So really happy to be with you guys today. Thank you, Jack, for inviting me.
Oh, thanks for joining us. How many connecting flights does it take you to get down to Panama?
It was basically 2 connecting flights, but then it's quite of a trek through Central America. Thing is, where I'm located in Bocas del Toro, and this is not really, it's kind of off the beaten path. So the closest airport, there is actually an airport in Bocas del Toro, but it's not an international airport, so you could actually connect and fly directly into Bocas del Toro. But to make things a little easier on the expense side, we fly into San Jose in Costa Rica. And from there, it's several hours. Mostly, it could be done technically in let's say 12 hours or 18 hours. It's just that the connecting flights do not always connect really smoothly. So you have to overnight in Costa Rica for sure. If you were to fly into Panama City, same thing. You have to spend the night and fly in the next day. What I do is I take the bus, and then from there, it's you definitely need to take a boat ride to get here, because we're really here in the middle of the jungle. We're off grid, completely off grid. Really, there's nothing here. No roads, no infrastructure, no electricity. Well, we have electricity in the house, but no power services, nothing. It's just we have a small native village pretty nearby. Monkeys in the tree behind, and we are in Dolphin Bay. So the area is known as Dolphin Bay, and there's a bay behind me with dolphins. As a matter of fact, we just had 5 dolphins coming up, and so yeah, this is where I am. So if you want, I can give you a small tour of the property and the area. I have a video which I recorded yesterday, showing where I am, the house, and the whole idea behind this. So
okay, sure. Let's do that.
Yeah. All right. Let me.
And so, did you mention that you're near to Bocas del Toro?
Yeah, the place is called Bocas del Toro. Um, it's a group of islands. I think there are like something like 20, 30 islands, and smaller islands, bigger islands. And so what we see here is a view from the dock. We see all the sailboats here, mostly from neighbors, and our sailboat, Aquasol, is right there. Smallest one, actually. It's not that small, but the other ones are bigger. So it looks kind of like a baby boat, but it's not that small. So this is the neighbor's dock. I'm standing in the video. I'm standing on our own dock here, and this is the powerboat that we use to go back to town to get groceries and stuff like that. Even with the powerboat, it's still a 30-minute ride, so it's kind of secluded. The house itself is way up on the hill, so it's quite a little trek through the jungle, which you'll see here. You can see mangroves. I don't know if it's choppy or if it's coming out smooth on your hand here.
A little bit choppy, but that's okay.
A little bit choppy. I think this is my computer is kind of acting up these days, so I guess it didn't like the traveling very much. So here is basically a nice spot for a garden, something we could plant, organic garden or any type of. If you would want to actually live off the land completely, then this is something that could be done. Seeing that we have all the resources and the actual space to do it. So let me forward a little bit, because this is like really walking all the way upstairs, and it's quite a ride. So this here is, we can see the house kind of, and I just set up a little shop here underneath the house, so you see all the crystals and molds and metal shavings and a whole bunch of things to make the Orgone devices. This is a nice view that I have from the shop. So we're just about to start a really extensive gifting campaign here. So this is going to be the area I'm going to be working on.
Quick question: do you bring a lot of those ingredients with you to make that stuff, or do you ship it, or do you have a separate kind of supply of stuff down there?
Yeah, I brought a suitcase almost full of crystals and metal and really like 2 dresses, and the rest was just like molds and supplies and weird stuff. So it's always tricky at the border. I get asked like weird questions sometimes. Here we can see the batteries that are actually holding the electricity, all the charge. Now, going upstairs. Here, by the way, is the shower. This here is... Damn, that video is really not good. So this is the main balcony, the actual living space, if you will, with a nice view on Dolphin Bay. And let me find that spot here. We see all the... Hold on. This is the interior of the house here. These are the charge controllers and other technologies, new technologies for the solar panels. Charge control. And this is the power inverter type of thing. And as you can see here, an Orgone device on the whole thing to really make sure that this whole system, which is really off-grid, keeps producing great energies. So, fully equipped kitchen here. I mean, standard North American standards of. So we have a pretty good quality of life. If we're in the middle of the jungle, completely off-grid, you see all the modern, all the conveniences of modern life. So it's all here. Then we have this. This is my room up there, and where I am sitting right now, with this awesome view of the bay. So this is my view in the morning when I get up. I see all the dolphins coming up and playing around. This is a little studio work environment. And lastly, solar panels. So this whole thing works off solar energy. So really, that's a tour of my little
How often do you go back and forth between Canada and Panama?
well, it's all fairly recent. Now the house here, we don't own the house. We're actually house sitting for somebody else. And the boat's been here in Panama since March, so it's been not quite a year. And usually I try and go back, well, whenever I have to for business to take care of Quebec Orgone and stuff like that. So since March, I came down here 3 times and went back 3 times. So let's say like spend a month and a half, 2 months in each location, traveling back and forth. That's what I'm aiming to be traveling more often, because I really like to move around. I don't want to be always in the same location, same spot, doing the same things. But this place here, I really, really like. Although I just got here a couple of days ago, I really, really enjoy the location, the house, and the energies are really awesome. So I guess I could stay here for quite a long time. If I didn't have to go back, I would probably. That's my spot here. I think I really enjoy it so far. Anyways.
And how long have you been sailing?
How long have I been what?
Sailing.
Sailing?
And how long have you had the
we just
Aqua Soul?
we bought the boat in March last year. So basically, we bought it here. I'm not a sailor. I'm definitely not a sailor. Martin, my partner, that was his dream. He wanted to sail, so we got the boat. I'm really good underwater, not so much on the water. So I feel at home in the water, not so much sailing. That's not really my thing. But so I'm not a sailor. Just for the record, it's a very nice boat, but it's not not really my cup of tea. And the more time I spend out at sea, I realize that I really like being on the ground, 2 feet planted, grounded, on firm ground.
I did have one question based on the introduction.
Yes.
So, in 2004, you built the website ethericfire.com for DB.
Yes.
And
yes.
I think in an email Don Croft had sent me, he said that DB was really instrumental with the early kind of history of Orgonite, and that a lot of that needs to be acknowledged. And you built this website for DB in 2004, so can you tell us a little bit about DB for people that don't know, because some of his work isn't well known, I guess.
Yes, DB was one of us gifters, people involved in the gifting and working with Don Croft and Carol and stuff like that, all the way back to in the Old Clodbuster forum, and I think even before that in the Yahoo forum, that was where Don Croft was just out of his own forum, and long story short, they created another board, which was back then cloudbusters.com and Orgonite.com, I think, and DB was a member there, gifting this area, which was in Los Angeles. And DB has a long history of being involved in the occult order. He was, according to his own tale of his own story, he was born in a family and that was bred especially for some occult work. Basically, he was an oracle. He was trained to go fetch information and do some of the positive light work for the dark side kind of thing. So if we kind of make it very simple. And when he realized what he was into, he sort of rebelled against his masters and started taking responsibility for some of the stuff that was happening around him. And throughout the years, I mean, I can't really tell this story from the right perspective, obviously, because it's not mine. And back then, DB started writing a lot about his own experiences and what he was going through and the things he was seeing and his relationship with elementals, air elementals, which he called sylphs. And he started reporting. He started reporting what was happening to him and stuff like that. And he was so his ability to communicate was really special. He had a special tone, a very outspoken way of talking about his experiences, and in that sense, it was really captivating. I would follow his blogs, and at first it was the forum post, and I'm sure I was not the only person. I mean, we just wanted more of that information, that insight, and in that sense, that's why DB was so instrumental in this whole process of having people like me and a bunch of others becoming more aware of what was happening. And in that sense, a lot of things that DB shared and shared with us and explained helped shape a lot of our own beliefs and our own ways of relating with reality. And he built I think his first site was cbswork.com, and he lost his domain. There was something happening with his website, and he had no more website. So I built Etheric Fire for him, and he kept that site for several years. Again, he lost it for some reason, having problems with the domain or something like that. And so yeah, that's DB's story in a sense, and that's why I have one of the songs on my album is Etheric Fire, and it's a tribute to CB's work. I like to call him CB's work, but DB, I mean, DB is initials for Don Bradley. So DB, CB's work, Don Bradley, all the same guy. So it's a very cool dude and nice soul. So that's my take, my view of DB, and still to this day, a lot of what he talked about and what he explained was right on. I mean, obviously we all have our own way of relating with reality. Some of it just does not apply. Some of it is valid. It's just like everything I say, it may not necessarily apply to you. Well, in the same sense, I mean, DB had his own faults and all, and I'm sure we could go through some of his writings, and it just doesn't apply nowadays, and the rest is still solid, still valid. So I still go back to his writing once in a while, get some inspiration there, and put things in different light and different perspective.
And you know, last time you were talking about different timelines and things. Who knows? Maybe things change really quickly. Things are changing really quickly. So
yeah, there is this. I mean, this is quite far-fetched, but perhaps there is a different timeline, different reality where we have a DB that's still implicated in doing things in a different way and brought some people there which do not necessarily correspond to the reality that we're experiencing right now. I'm a firm believer in that process of having different timelines, different realities all happening at once. Obviously, we're all going through different changes in reality as we go every second, every minute. But it's not really what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is actually self-contained realities. So you have one Earth and one world with some people in there, and then a completely different world with completely different environment and with other people in there, and then you can be yourself in like those two different timelines at the same time. One of them being you conscious, and the other one is just a copy of you that's not really conscious. And as you gather more of your consciousness and bring it in a certain timeline, you gain more consciousness, and you actually take the consciousness away from all the other timelines, and you kind of concentrate that. That's my sort of perspective on the whole timeline thing. I think it's an idea that needs to be explored. If we're, as I pointed out last week, if we are to solve this whole collective dilemma that we have. There's some people wanting a certain reality and other people wanting different things. I think exploring all these options of working with different timelines and perhaps knowing, finding a way to bridge these timelines and being able to actually travel between all these different timelines could be very well an interesting solution, or if it is bring a different twist to our own individual stories.
Definitely, definitely. I I wonder about how much truth there is to a lot of the things they put out on the news, and like maybe it's true in one timeline, maybe it's not true in another. So like for example, I think that it's really awesome that you're using the solar power in the house that you're in now, and you've got the green energy running things there. But I wonder, is the oil really running out? When you look at things mathematically, there's so much oil being used, and there's so much more being used all the time. It should have ran out a long time ago, but we're still able to fly, at least at this point.
Yes, and that's one that I think that's really interesting. You're bringing a really interesting idea here, and I'm a firm believer that we live. I mean, we live in sort of, I like to call it, a virtual world. It's not really virtual in the sense that we're in a computer. Perhaps we are, but that's not what I'm saying. Is the whole reality, what we have around us, is just it's physical, but it's really non-physical. It's all energy. So in that sense, I like to tie this whole thing into the idea of a holographic universe. And in that sense, anything can be created out of nothing, because everything is being every second created out of nothing. So what prevents us from creating more? And if we go back to this idea of having different timelines, then we can actually go and start harvesting from the different timelines, and perhaps have one that serves only to create more resources, which we could go there, bring some of it. And I think this is what a lot of us have been doing. Some of us perhaps consciously, and a bunch of us not consciously, not exactly knowing what we're doing. And as we start moving forward like this, then we start to, I know it's a process that's been happening for me, knowing oh yeah, this is what I'm doing, oh yeah, then this ties in with that, and as I start to realize what I'm doing, then I think it's a really empowering experience. And it's funny you mentioned this solar panel living off grid. A really interesting feature here is that, believe it or not, we have our own dedicated cell phone microwave tower, which is privately owned on a nearby island, and it's been put there by private interests, which are like all the neighbors in this small community here, serves only for us to connect to the internet. It was erected there, and it's ours. So in that sense, it's kind of a different twist, different take on this whole control system that we see, like all the towers that we've been gifting. Now I've got my own. It's kind of fun. Obviously, it's going to be gifted pretty soon as well. I'm going to take the boat and just go out there and gift my own tower, like literally my own tower. So it's kind of, and this really ties in with all these, to me anyways, it ties in with all these ideas of exploring the different timelines and being in a really off-grid, so in a sense really self-contained. Even that internet that I'm speaking with right now could be like really just coming out of here. So that opens up a lot of possibilities in terms of using this whole creative power that we all have.
Compared to your personal, I guess we're all evolving beings, depending on where we're individually at in our own lives. But do you think gifting Orgonite makes one more? Have you become more aware with certain aspects of your life as you've been gifting over the years?
Of course, yes. I'm a completely different person today than I was, let's say, 10 years ago. That's for sure. I mean, in all aspects. On the mental aspect, it's changed, and my spiritual me has changed a lot. Physical, the whole thing, it's changed me completely. So, and I sincerely believe it's changed me for the better, much better. So, yes, gifting is a really empowering process for me. It's a really it's not just, oh yeah, let's go do some gifting and it's a fun activity. Of course it is, but it's much more than that, and it's empowering, it's liberating, and it's helping others, it's helping ourselves, and as we help ourselves we're helping others, and as we help others we're helping ourselves, because obviously we're all part of sharing a certain reality. So yes, gifting is it's been instrumental for me in my growth and my process of taking responsibility for who I am, for what I'm experiencing, taking responsibility for what's around me, what happens to me, to realizing the fact that everything is a projection coming out of our own minds, and that we are co-creating a reality up to a certain point. So this has been sort of part of my uh, journey of self-exploration and creative discovery.
And Orgonite really, I don't know, like compared to what I was into, when I started gifting in around 04, 05, I'd have to look at my journals. Most of the stuff I was into back then, I just have kind of evolved beyond, but Orgonite is not one of those things because it seems to be the real deal, whereas a lot of stuff, at least personally, I was into back then, is so, I don't know, kind of old news, but Orgonite kind of doesn't, I don't know, it's the real deal. I guess it doesn't.
Yeah, I would like to just basically the way to explain it. It's just the stuff works. It's just it works in ways that nothing else works in the same fashion, and it's yeah, as you say, sometimes you sort of grow beyond some ideas and stuff like that, like meditation or doing yoga and stuff like that. Those are things I've been exploring, but it just doesn't stay. Whereas, yeah, I always keep coming back to using Orgonite and Orgone energy in creative fashion. There's that and the music, which to me are really connected and really super related. But yeah, working with Orgonite, whether for gifting or even just for personal use, it's and what I really like about this is that I like to call it technology, because it is in a sense a technology, and just like we've been using cell phones and the internet, all of a sudden we just won't stop using cell phones and the internet. We just use more and more of that because it makes our lives easier. Well, in that sense, Orgonite is the technology that might be not really well understood at this point. And as we are exploring this, we're starting to realize what it does and what it is. But still, it's, to me, still a technology of the future. We're barely scratching the surface of the potential of these things. And so yeah, that's the beauty of it, both in terms of going out on the field, using tactical Orgonite, and as simple as it is, metal, crystal, and resin, and just gifting that, all the way to the more extreme, complex forms of Orgonite, personal devices, and some of my radionic modules and stuff like that are much more complex, much more complicated. These things all work together, and to me anyways, I've been improving my own experience, my own life, and the life and the experiences of others around me as well. So it's just an awesome tool in technology.
I want to follow up on something you just mentioned. Can you expand a little bit on the relation between Orgonite and music that you just mentioned?
Yes, music is a vibration. Music is a frequency, and Orgonite to me is a frequency, and this is and it's a vibration. So it's just one might be a more subtle version of the other, but to me, both are really extremely powerful creative forces, and as you start working with one and the other and mixing them together to either explore new ideas or try new things, I found that this is a really powerful mix. And as in that sense, maybe we don't quite fully understand the whole dynamic of. No, actually, we don't understand. I don't, anyways, understand the whole dynamic and. So it's a really powerful tool, and it's universal. Both are. I mean, music is universal as a language, and I think the same thing with energies. I mean, when you feel good energies, you feel good energies no matter whether you speak English, French, Japanese, Chinese, Spanish, whatever. You feel it. In that sense, music is the same. It gives you feelings. It gives you as you listen to music, it changes your thought process, and you start feeling in a certain way, which in turn produces some of the energy. And as you have that energy, then you can actually, so they're interrelated. As you have these energies in you, you can shift your mental process and be able to put yourself in a position where you can create some music to replicate that. And it's sort of like a loop, which is a really interesting dynamic. So these two things are interconnected. Anyways, for me and my own personal journey, I produce music, I listen to music, and to me, I see it as a creative tool, a way to express myself, but also a way to have some more impact and help other people in their lives and help them feel better, help them to even get past some of their blockage and thought process.
So I wanted to ask you about EnergySensitives.com, Energy
Yes.
Sensitives Hub website. Can you tell us? I didn't know about your website when we spoke last week, so can you tell us about that?
Yes. It was a website. It's a website that I created, and actually, it's Doncroft brought the idea. He said, "Well, why don't you create a website for the psychics and the energy sensitives to go there and start interacting and talking about the stuff that we don't really talk about on Etheric Warriors, because a lot of the things that we do is really highly subjective in ways that you can't really validate. You can't really say, well, this is what happened, and here I got the pictures, and here's my report. If we go into a chat session, for example, and we start seeing all these things, and we start having all these strange experiences, then we can just go and start posting about it on the forum. In a sense, it kind of dilutes the effort. It kind of make things in a different perspective, which is not necessarily conducive to creating more gifting and bringing the whole Etheric Warriors website forward in a collective fashion. So because of that, Don wanted to see a place where we could just talk about a whole bunch of different things and stuff that was either more subjective, off topic, and things like that. And there was another forum, which I don't remember the name, and I tried to implicate myself on that forum, and things just didn't go too well. I talked about my radionic experiment, and it was just received with like a cold shower. It's just like, well, this is way too subjective. You don't have any proof of what you're saying, and it's, well, yeah, this is a private forum. That's why I want to talk about this here, so we can maybe gather some information before I take that knowledge and take it and go public with it. And I thought that was the whole premise behind their forum, and it was not. So, and then I talked about this with Don, and he said, well, you should just go out and create your own, which makes sense, and I did. And I invited a bunch of people, and we had Carol and Dooney and a bunch of users from Etheric Warriors and other people joining and starting a small discussion. And I mean, the site was empty. Obviously, it's just blank pages, and this thing needed content, so I went and created some and just launched some ideas and threw some ideas out there, and just basically tried to get this whole thing off the ground. And it kind of worked, but at the same time, not really. So people just didn't really follow up with the discussions, and so I guess some of the ideas I presented were maybe controversial or just way out there, and I don't know, things didn't really pick up as it should. So the site's still up, and I visit once in a while and say, well, is there anything new, anybody posting? And it quickly got to the point where people were just asking me a lot of questions offline, and I felt like I was just in a position where people were just looking up to me for answers, and I didn't want that. I don't want to be a cult leader. I don't want to be even a guru, or even being in DB. We were talking about DB before. He was just teaching all these people, and people were just, oh yeah, I want more of DB's information. And I didn't want to find myself in a position where I'm teaching people and saying, well, you know, this is how you should think, and this is what, and those are my ideas. No, I don't want that. I just so I kind of I put a distance between myself and the website, and said, well, I'll see if, you know, I'll take the back seat here and see if you guys can make this whole thing move forward. And it didn't move forward. So the website is there. Anybody wants to read, visit, join, post, it's still there. So that's sort of the idea behind Energy Sensitive. There was just no topic that was defined. It was just a place that we can use to talk about some of this more strange things and stuff like that. And I really sort of gave it a more futuristic twist, and I wanted to talk about some of the really leading technologies that are different from what we hear, and take all these ideas of really futuristic technologies and maybe try and present them in a way that it's not necessarily connected with negative ideas and beliefs, as we often seem to connect these. Oh yeah, future technology, it's evil, you know, and then we should all go back to living a simple life and a green life, and you know, like I'm sort of like what I'm living here. But basically, my whole premise was just to explain that that does not necessarily exclude more futuristic ideas and stuff like I don't know, teleportation or time travel, or even cloning, stuff like that was really one of the most controversial topics when I started talking about immortality, being immortal, being able to create new bodies and upload our minds into computers and stuff like that. And that was a big no. You know, I'm spiritual. I don't want that. And
right.
It kind of scared people. And it's okay, sure. That's, you know, if people want to associate these ideas with, you know, it's evil, it's dangerous, it's okay, fine for them to believe. I'm a firm believer in just exploring ideas, and I think intent is what really defines the polarity of something. So if you're doing it with good intent, then you're having good experiences. If not, then you're creating negative experiences, and either way it's just an experience.
There's actually a lot of interesting stuff on the website. When you were talking about the futuristic technologies, I was reminded of the link you posted to the portable spectrometer that someone
Yes.
was going to be releasing, and that looked really cool.
Yes.
So I mean, that's an example of, you know, does technology improve your life? If it improves your life, and if it doesn't detract from your quality of life, then, you know, maybe it's a good thing. But there was one discussion I wanted to ask you about on the website. That there's a lot of great discussion on there. So I don't think it's as you were kind of downplaying it a little bit. I think it doesn't deserve that.
That's what everybody's telling me. But I was just ready to shut down the whole thing. It's like, okay, well, it's okay. I'm talking about all these things, and I get a little bit of feedback because obviously there was a couple of us interacting, which is really nice. But at the same time, I guess it's just a matter of, you know, it's me and my expectations, and just maybe I'm sort of, I had maybe bigger expectations, or my expectations were perhaps too high. To I don't know. To me, it felt like, okay, well, the website is not going anywhere because I'm here almost alone talking, and okay, guys, hello, can you I'm feeling this thing. I'm trying to offer ideas, and I don't really get much response. That was just my feeling about it. But perhaps, yeah, I'm wrong. And Don told me the same things, like, just to relax and leave it out there, and we'll see where it goes. So thank you. Yes, I appreciate if you say that you found some interesting discussions and some interesting content out there. Then that's the whole idea. So yes, thank you. See if that's the case.
And patience, because things
Yes.
happen. So it'll build. It's building. It's. So I wanted to ask you about let's see. Oh yeah, there's a great discussion on there about using crystals other than just plain quartz in Orgonite.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
and I know that you have done a lot of work experimenting with different crystals that go into your pyramid or your power wand and the different devices you have at QuebecOrgone.com. So tell us a little bit about your work using crystals other than just plain quartz in Orgonite.
Yes, a lot of it is odd, and we're coming back to this idea here. A lot of it comes from actually some of the ideas that were presented by Sibi's work years ago. He said, "Well, don't use this, or try this," and this really helped shape my own understanding and beliefs around using crystals. That and the work of several others, especially back at a time where I couldn't really see or feel the energy, so it was really helpful to have some feedback from people. So yes, my experience, to me anyways, my experience has been that whenever I find something that works, a mix of stones, or let's just say a configuration, a way of placing things, and then even back when I didn't feel, then I always felt, but when I didn't see the energies like I do today, and then it was just a matter of looking around for confirmations of the effectiveness of the devices. And when I see confirmations, just people who use it, and I say, yeah, that it worked for me, then that's a confirmation. So it tells you that what you put inside is effective. So when I found something that actually worked, that was effective, I just keep the recipe, just replicate, do the same thing. That's why most of the devices and everything we have on the catalog for Quebec Orgone are all built the same, as I was mentioning last week. And some of these recipes haven't changed in quite a while. So that was sort of my experience. But I remember back when I started creating devices, even for gifting, and then I wanted to do a little bit more and create stuff for my own personal use. I mean, it's several years ago. I didn't have all these access to all these websites. Nowadays, it's kind of easy. We have a lot of resources, and we have special vendors who sell crystals for Orgonite, and then you can find pretty much everything at once. Back then, we had there was Gladys and Revtet. I think these were the two crystal vendors. So we had Gladys. She was just selling the quartz, and then you could go to Myths and Links, which was Revted, and he was just a guy who had a crystal shop, and he had a special page. He made a special page for HHGs and TBs and Orgonite, and you could order in small quantities, which was really nice. So you could, I don't know, get some rose quartz or kyanite, and I would go on the site. Okay, what's available this week? Grab a couple of small samples, just see what it does, try it, different mixes, and then observe the results. That's more when it comes to using, to building, creating personal devices. I always tell people, to really keep it simple when it comes to actually gifting, just a quartz, and perhaps if you want one earth-based gemstone. Maybe I like to say for good measure, because back then there was a lot of talking saying if you don't put an art stone in there, and then your device can be hijacked, and then all this gifting that you're doing is actually helping the bad guys. So that was a really scary thought. You could actually go out there and help the bad guys. So all this work that I'm doing is actually not helping. It's actually helping them, whoever they are, achieve what they're trying to achieve. And that was, for me anyways, I remember that was kind of a big source of fear in a sense. Like, yeah, well, what if I'm trying to help, and here and I'm actually not helping, I'm actually making things worse. So for good measure, I say, well, yeah, okay, I'm going to use the art stones, and then that's it kind of will prevent the device from being hijacked. And that was sort of the whole discussion. Now, I can tell you all of this is pretty much nonsense. You don't have to put Hearthstone in there, and it won't get hijacked, and it won't, if you go out there and you're gifting, then you're actually helping and making things better, and it's your energy that goes in that, and your intent that goes in that, in creating that device. So I mean, unless you're doing it with ill intent, and even if you were to do that, I don't think it will work, because you need quite a lot of it. So I don't know, it's that was sort of my experience, and then I guess this goes to say that we can all have these crazy ideas thrown at us effectively at one point or another, start believing in strange things, and these are just ways to hold you back, to hold me back, to hold you guys back. I say, well, you could be dangerous. So, and back then that was one of the twists, and then we had some discussions about using charged water in the devices, and then if you didn't use a charged water, then your devices were not as effective. Our devices had the water, they were like 1,000 times more effective, and then a whole bunch of nonsense like that. And these ideas keep coming back. There's a lot of a certain form. A lot of people have been talking about nano Orgonite, whatever that is. I've seen that word come up a couple of times. I think it's using like small metal particles. I don't even know what it is. And this is, the big deal. That's the new thing. You need to do that. It's nano Orgonite is more powerful, and if you don't do that, then your gifting's not good, and that's just nonsense again. On the French side, you have these guys that are, what do you call it? Induction Orgonite or something like that. I don't even know what it is. I don't visit these forums. I don't really waste my time with that. I'd rather just create my own stuff, or use something that's proven instead of just going with something. Oh, that's the new French. Just go and create some induction devices, whatever they are. Maybe they're effective. I don't know. It's just the way they're, we were talking about it last week. It's not necessarily the invention or the device or the approach that's wrong. It's sometimes the way it's presented as being the magic bullet, or the better solution, the new Orgonite, the new improved thing, or the next level thing, or all these kind of keywords that we keep hearing, and they are basically just detracting us from doing what works. And especially when it comes to the idea of gifting and going out there, and I mean, making thousands, sometimes for some of us, sometimes it's thousands of devices. Then if you start just adding more ingredients and doing that, then it's detracting you, and you can't do that. You can have like 5,000 devices with special crystals and gemstones and all fancy and all that. So that's why Don likes to always bring back the idea, simple crystal, resin, the metal, and that's it. You got your TBs, and you can go and do some gifting, and it works. It works as is. Perhaps if you were to add something else, then it would be a little bit more powerful and all that. And then as you start thinking about that, you spend more time thinking about all these things instead of making more. So in the end, what's most effective? Just being out there doing it, or thinking about ways of being out there trying to make it more effective? Maybe a balance of both, in a sense. So I'm not saying just don't don't try new things. After all, that's by trying new stuff that we came up with what we have today. What to me, again, is just going public with these things and making all these bold claims that this is, that's my way or the highway. No, that to me, it's just not necessarily productive, and that's why I like the approach that Don takes, that just keep things simple, do our stuff. And I think right now the Africans are really paving the way in that sense. They're really proving that you don't need to be super duper fancy, and then these guys are getting incredible results and awesome confirmations and well documented. So in that sense, they're shining by example right now. So yeah, that's sort of my take. I've heard different things about crystals and then what is it recent. One thing though, when somebody comes to me with oh, what do you think about this? I said, I don't know, And then 2 weeks later, somebody else says, what do you think about this? And the same word comes twice in a week or twice in 2 or 3 days. And then the third person asks me the same thing. And I keep hearing the same word all around me from different sources, different people. That's when I really, I got to start paying attention to this. For me, anyways. So when I get the same, the same keywords or the same ideas coming at me, being thrown at me from different sources, that tells me that something out there is trying to get to me in the sense and a new idea, a new approach. I know as of late, I've heard the term. It's a stone that I don't even know what it is. It's, I think, how do you pronounce Shungai? Shungai, Shungite. However you pronounce it, I don't know. My English is not perfect, obviously. So I've had that term come up 4 times in about 2 weeks or a month. Somebody came to me, hey, have you ever tried this? And then somebody sends me an email, hey, have you tried this? And then somebody else sends me a link to a website that has Orgone devices with that. Hey, what do you think about this? That tells me, that maybe I should think about investigating the idea. I'm not saying I'm going to start using that ingredient in everything I make, and then I'm going to be creating these devices. But really, when you start, you have to be open. You have to sort of being receptive to what life, what the environment is trying to tell you in that sense. So.
Definitely. That, I guess that's maybe the universe kind of telling us what direction, at least to look at something. Like,
Yes.
I find when you gift that, you, I don't know, kind of get clues maybe that kind of tell you where to go. Like here I'd bicycled for like 2 hours to get down to some castle, and I was gifting what I could, and some guy was like, well, there's another castle that's way bigger, you should go check out, it's pretty close. So I went there, and there was a weather ball right next to that castle. So I was like, oh, I'm glad that guy told me to come to this castle, because here was a weather ball that I was totally able to gift. And I think when you're gifting these, I don't know, things sort of start fitting together, and you get intuitive promptings that tell you what to investigate or what to look at. Let me see, you mentioned a couple good things I wanted to follow up on there. I think one thing you mentioned was what the Africans are doing with just simple Orgonite, and how they're really leading by example with gifting. I think one of the huge successes that I really want to hear more about is getting common people interested in Orgonite and farmers, because over there it seems like they find out about it, and I don't know, I guess because culturally things are different. Everyone wants it. They don't just kind of try to poo-poo it like a lot of people do that I know, because it can't be real, it's just too strange. In Africa,
Yes.
it seems that people accept it a lot more readily.
A lot of it has to do, in my opinion anyways, a lot of it has to do with cultural bias. We're so here in the West and in the modern world, we're so I don't know, so programmed by it, in a certain way, to think in a certain way, to act in a certain way, and people are just basically reacting because they're just not conscious. Most of them are just watching TV, being programmed by the medias. It's not as effective as it was, but these things still exist, and a lot of these people I like to call them automatons. They're just like robots, and sometimes you feel like you want to shake them, say, wake up, but you can't. Well, you can, by gifting. You can't go directly to that person and say, well, can't force it. So in that sense, it's cultural. And it's not the case if in obviously it's probably what it is. I mean, in Africa, the whole culture as well is a lot more open, a lot more into occult or magical things, and then this whole idea of having the magical way of seeing reality. So it really helps if you have this background. Here we're rooted in science and in really like well defined, and it has to be measured. It has to be. I'm not saying it's not the case, but this whole science, anyways, is just some kind of weird dark cult. Anyways, most of it is not real science. We like to say, oh, it's science. Again, balance. Which we seem to be lacking a lot of here in the West. It's this balance between science and spirituality and things that are not necessarily measurable, but which are being measured more and more. And then you have all this control system that's in place that's sort of telling the researchers and the so-called scientists how to think and how to proceed, and if you want to be able to present your research and to do your things in a certain way, then you need peer review, and then you get funding from the universities and the institutions, and sometimes by the big companies and the corporate stuff. And this whole thing just keeps them in a certain loop and thinking in a certain way, and that reflects on the whole society. So that to me explains sort of why people are so hard, really, to convince, harder to convince here in the West as opposed to in Africa. I think Don has been talking a lot about this in his various posts on the forum, and he's really passionate about the African culture. So he knows a lot more than I do about it. Sometimes I go through the forum and I read the Africans post, and I'm kind of lost. Okay, where's what? And they have all these names of people and where they go and what they did, and I'm sort of detached from that reality. What I do see is the awesome results and the confirmations that they keep reporting. So to me, that's really what I like to focus on. But yes, they are indeed having great success in spreading information and knowledge and about Orgonite. And I have to say, a lot of people are starting to be open to this idea. Even here, I mean, not necessarily here in Panama. Obviously, if I was just to go out there and present this whole concept, then I'm sure people would be extremely receptive to the idea. Because obviously, if people who are living here are obviously not part of the whole system. I mean, if you have a house and you're living in the middle of the jungle, you obviously you're doing something different just by being here. And by I'm gonna go build a house in the middle of the jungle. Just to have that idea, you have to think outside of the box, outside of the mold. So I find myself surrounded by a community of people who most of them are American expats, and a lot of them just fled the United States. Say, well, we don't want anything to do with the States. It's kind of it's a cool bunch, different people. So, anyways, if I was to try and spread awareness here, then I would probably get a lot of results in that sense. I like to do my teaching work online. That's where I relate with people perhaps better. But yes, I'm sure a lot of you have been experiencing the same thing. I talked about it last week. Several years ago, people were just closed to the idea. They didn't want, you talk about this, and they'd be, well, I'm not sure. And now you talk about energies. Hey, yeah, I know energies, and I like these energies. And so you're telling me this is going to help me? Yes. Well, okay, that's cool. Before they were like really, oh, okay, yeah, if you say so. So I for one, I see the change, even in the people who say, well, I don't believe in it, but if you say it's good, then it can't hurt. So these are things are changing. The way people react, the way people relate with these ideas. It's all evolving. So it's super cool.
Definitely. Hey, this might sound a little weird or whatever, but what are your thoughts on past lives, reincarnation? What do you think about that kind of stuff?
Oh, that's an interesting question. One thing what I like it's to me it's kind of when I mentioned this whole idea of having different timelines and different parallel realities, and to me the idea of having different lives, past lives or future lives and all that is best understood in my perspective from the perspective of time being nonlinear. So if you move into higher dimensions, you can, as I think I was talking about it a little bit last week, you can actually see the whole of your life from beginning to end as an undulating snake, and this whole thing in itself is self-contained and can be seen from a higher or upper dimension. So in that sense, you can have many instances of you being in that undulating snake of reality. So what I'm saying is that you could technically be experiencing your life from many different perspectives all at once. And it doesn't have to, in my opinion, doesn't have to be necessarily in a certain chronological order. So let's say, okay, I'm done with this life. I'm moving on. I die, and then I need to come back into a different experience, another life. Doesn't mean that, let's say, I die in 2020, then in 2021 I'm going to have the next life. Like the next life could be 1,000 years ago, or in that sense. That's to me that's key to understanding my perspective on this whole reincarnation thing. As well, the fact that you could probably be incarnated into two different people all at once, so you could literally be talking to yourself. Literally. So that's kind of a mind fuck, but it's really interesting, especially when you start to relate to understand and experience it. Then you can see that, oh yeah, okay, this is another version of me, but perhaps before or after, and then in which order do you actually experience this? That's the whole premise. Personally, I find that I'm having more and more flashbacks, ideas, sort of flashbacks and image and of. Maybe it's before or after. I don't know in which order, but of other lives, of other experiences, especially when around the time of birth or death, and these flashbacks or visions are coming more and more and more and more defined and obvious. So that's sort of my take on it. Obviously, the fact that I have all these really clear, well-defined visions, I guess, sort of validates the idea that you have reincarnation, and then you. To me, it's obvious that a life here is not finite all by itself, like from birth to death, and then that's it. There's nothing. No, that's to me that's proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is not that the idea that you have a single life, you only live once. You keep hearing these things, especially among young people these days. It's become even like a big trend because they call it YOLO. You only live once. You gotta be partying, and that's a whole thought process that's really a strong parasite in people's mind. Is you only live once, so you got to make the most of your life now, and then at all costs, it's irrelevant what happens after. To me, it's obvious that this is not it's not a healthy way of thinking, but it's also not right in the sense that it's not the case. I mean, perhaps if these people really believe it, and they'll come to a blank wall of nothing once they're done. I don't know, but to me, anyways, it's quite obvious that there is way more to life than life as a single life, as a self-contained experience. So, in that sense, and especially having all these images and flashbacks and all that, kind of points in the direction that you have more. So yeah, I have certain flashbacks of. Perhaps I think it was before, but really a violent death on the highway. So now, and as this starts to become more and more obvious, then I find that whenever I'm in a car and I'm driving past a semi truck, I have these flashbacks. I know what happens if you go there, so it's become really, 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 really clear. Which was, and all this experience was not here a couple of years ago, and now it's becoming more defined. I have also as well some flashbacks of being in a cloning tank. So that, not sure if it's before or after, but really, yes, being in a sort of a tank and with some water and all that, and sort of a cloning. So I'm thinking perhaps logically that would be after, perhaps something that will happen later. But could also be from a different world or something like that. So I'm not quite sure.
Interesting.
Yes.
So, when we started or earlier in the interview, you mentioned DB first talking or being one of the first people to talk about sylphs. And
yes.
So, what are your perspectives on elemental beings like the sylphs? And I know there are many, many different kinds. So, what do you think about them?
Well, let me show you some footage that I actually shot yesterday. The beautiful sylph right above her house here. Here it is.
Definitely.
Yeah, so yeah, to me, the elementals, sylphs, and the other kinds of elementals as well have some interesting pictures. All right, let me show you some of the pictures. To me, these are very, very real because I've been interacting with them on an almost daily basis for several years. Here we can see a picture which I took in Dominican Republic. These are undines, so they're basically water elementals. I mean, to me, it's quite obvious if you can't see it. Perhaps you're blind, because I mean, these, first of all, they look like dolphins, but they're obviously not dolphins. They're made of water, and it's quite obvious. Perhaps I need to actually show it to you so you can actually know where to look. But I mean, to me, this is quite obvious. So you have fire elementals. Hold on a second.
Now, with the water elementals that you just showed us, was that something that they manifested, like they were there over a long period of time and you took the photo, or is that the kind of thing that you see after having taken a photo?
Yeah, and I was actually on the beach and I asked, well, make yourselves visible so I can actually take pictures. And and then looking at the pictures afterwards, and that was I mean, it's quite obvious, and it showed up in many different shots, but that one was obviously the best one, and I mean, it's, to me, quite obvious. It's there, and you have to understand that to actually maintain this form, then a lot of energy would be required by the elementals and by the system itself. Although I'm sure it could be possible, but then perhaps some of it could be considered wasted energy. I mean, maintaining that solid form for more than a split second would be quite a challenge for any being of that light, in terms of being they're really light in terms they're not physical. So to make themselves visible like this really requires a lot of energy. So here we have fire elementals, and I'm sure you can't help but notice how much they look like the air elementals. I mean, they have the same type of wings, the same shape. They look like birds, so they're really, really, really similar. Air elementals here again.
Definitely.
Yes. So all this to say that to me this is just common stuff that's around me, like everywhere I look, especially when you start looking for these things. Then if you're in the right frame of mind, if you have the right emotions as well, then these non-physical beings start making themselves really, really visible all around you. The ones I don't have much pictures. I don't have any pictures actually of Earth elementals, which are probably for some reason I'm not relating with them as easily. Forest divas and all these other more Earth related. I'm not so much in touch with them. To me, obviously, I think it's the same for a lot of us who are gifting. The air elementals are really frequent, common. Same thing. The water elementals for me, they do show up once in a while. I don't play with fire very often, so it's not something that I see very often. So yes, elementals, they're all around us, and yeah, that's something. Thanks to DB for really for pointing this out in the beginning. He said, well, it's there. You know, you go gifting. Look at these clouds. They're not clouds. They're actually self-aware, conscious beings. They're not just clouds. And then you would repeat that and showing a lot of pictures. I was like, okay, yes, it looks like a cloud, dude. And then you see another one and another one, and then you see, and then that's when, you know, it hits, is when you see it for yourself. Because I mean, looking at pictures taken by DB is just one thing. When you actually see it for yourself and you see that thing flying, not just appearing, literally flying, low flying stuff. And then you realize that that thing is conscious. It's not just a cloud, because it's actually sending you energies, and you're sending energy to it, and it responds, and it moves, and it follows you around, and things like that. So, okay, well, that's when you, to me anyway, that's when you sort of realize that reality is not just matter, and it's not really what we think it is. And that was several years ago that I made that realization, and I noticed these elementals. So in that sense, I see them very often around me, especially when gifting, or when I arrive in new locations, new areas. They make, if the environment is conducive and positive enough, and there's enough energy in the environment, then they make themselves really visible.
Definitely. Thank you for that. And okay, so maybe one more kind of weird, or maybe one more kind of thing I want to get your perspective on. I know a lot of stuff out there is negative energy that is meant to bring us down. Maybe it has elements of truth to it, or maybe it doesn't. What are your thoughts on the Agenda 21?
Well, oh yeah, that's a big one. Well, I think first of all, everybody should educate themselves and know what this is. If you guys don't know what Agenda 21 is, you should really make an effort to. I think you should make an effort to really go out there, go on Google, do a search, and really learn what that thing is. There are some videos on YouTube which are really well done, explain the whole thing, and will completely dismiss the idea that this is just a conspiracy and that it's not true and all that. It's well documented. It's something that was designed by the UN, and it's really very real. So now that you understand that it's real and then it's there, you can actually get the idea that it's not true, it won't happen, it's not real. You can get that idea out of the way and start focusing on the fact that, okay, it's there. What does it mean? What is it? And I think to sort of connect the dots with that, Carlos just posted a really interesting link on Etheric Warriors a couple of days ago about the connection between the green environmental people and the Nazis, and that to me is really spot on in terms of connecting the dot between the values and the ideas that are being proposed by this whole Agenda 21 thing, and what's really going on, and what's this whole deal is all about. And as is being explained in the article that Carlos posted, it's not because some of these ideas are connected necessarily with some ideas of Nazis and all that. They're not all wrong. I mean, Agenda 21 is a plan for control of the resources and to really help fight against climate change and limited resources and stuff like that. And obviously some of these ideas are not necessarily wrong. I'm not saying because we oppose Agenda 21, we should go out there and burn as much fuel as we can and just spend all the resources that we can. But on the other hand, I think we should be aware of the fact that some of these feel-good ideas of being green and being in tune with the environment, especially when it comes to this whole Gaia thing of being nature and all that, ties in with some of the darker ideas of mankind, as like extreme right-wing ideas, Nazis and stuff. And really, this really shows how this ties in with what's happening right now in the world. This whole Agenda 21, just to give you an example, proposed several years ago and was adopted and signed by most of the countries in the United Nations. The idea that the strong economic powers should really move their resources out of their countries and start spreading that wealth into developing countries. Well, that was signed maybe 15 years ago, and they're implementing it right now. So it's just expanding our ideas and really understanding what's going on in that sense. So I'm not saying that Agenda 21 is a good thing or it's a bad thing. I'm saying it's there. You should make an effort to educate yourself in that sense if you're not already aware, because to me that's something that I was just recently made aware of it. I mean, I was aware of the whole dynamic and obviously this whole thing of the green movement being corrupt and being just most of it just being created out of fear. I was really aware of that, but I didn't know there was a name to it. There was actually a program. There was, and that this whole thing was really well documented and really put forward by all the countries in the UN, and that this was really, really well structured, and the name was Agenda 21. I didn't know it until very recently. So in that sense, I think this is really something that people should pay attention to, and I think that can be tied into some of the ideas I presented on my website, energysensitive.com. Some of the ideas I said, well, we shouldn't be so green in our thinking, and I kind of validates these ideas that we shouldn't be so green, that we have to be in touch with the earth, and that the only way forward is by being green and by being careful with the resources that we use. And my whole premise is just that we can create more resources that we don't need. That the whole idea of Agenda 21, and that ultimately the whole Agenda 21 thing is just a form of control and population reduction. I'm not saying that we should focus on that, but we should at least be aware of what it is, and perhaps collectively we can adapt the whole thing into something more productive and better for all of us.
Thank you for that. So everyone definitely, if you don't know about Agenda 21, do some research and look into that. And Cassandria, do you have any final thoughts or anything you want to speak about before we wrap up for today?
Well, I think how can I wrap this up? Yes. Basically, I think people should just educate themselves into how they feel, how they relate with the world. Maybe perhaps learn how to change the perspective. Really be aware that you can actually create your own reality, and really by doing so, you're really affecting other people's reality as well. And as you start moving in that direction, you become more empowered, more aware, and you help other people do the same. And to me, that's ultimately what makes me feel great, is to know that I have a purpose in creating my own reality, and that I can help others do the same. So perhaps it's my way of wrapping this up. And to sum it up, gifting Orgonite is one. It's to me, it was the most instrumental tool, and it's one of the solutions out there. So if you're not already involved in gifting, if you're thinking about it, you've been reading about it, you want to experience that, you want to do something about the problems that you perceive around you, definitely that's the way to go. And it's a bit, for me anyway, all these years it's been an awesome, amazing experience of discovery, self-discovery, of empowerment. And I think pretty much everybody who's been down that road feels the same, that it was just really a powerful, positive force in their life, and a great vector of good. So in that sense, go out gifting, make Orgonite, and start experimenting.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us today. So, thanks very much for joining us today, yes. Cassandria.
Thank you. No, I don't know, that thing cut off. Well, thank you, Jack, for inviting me. It was great. To me, this whole interview thing was really a great experience as well. I felt that it was a great way to just help people empower themselves. So thank you so much, and hope you enjoy a lot of success with the upcoming episodes as well.
Thank you. Okay, so we will talk to you again sometime in the future.
I hope so.
I know so. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so there you have it. That's Cassandria. Be sure to visit her websites. They are energysensitives.com, which is the Energy Sensitives Hub. Also, soulsynthesis.com. And, of course, check out QuebecOrgone.com. And my name's Jack Music, and thank you very much for watching today. And, yeah, you all have a great day. Okay, bye-bye.
Yes, absolutely. Here, the resin is so cheap. It's not even funny.
Wow.
It's like $15 a gallon.
How much a gallon?
Yeah, it's $15 a gallon.
Holy shnikes. Wow.
Yeah, no, I know. It's because so many boats. It's just boats everywhere. So resin is readily available everywhere. So
I wish I could live in or have a situation like that. Even in Hawaii, on one of the other islands, there's a place that sells quantity of resin, but
yes,
getting it to my island is expensive. And I contacted one of the fiberglass boat makers, and I know they must buy it by the drum to make their boats. And and I asked them, can I get a few gallons, from you the next time you get a drum or something? And they like, I don't know, maybe it was weird, like they were just like, oh, we don't have enough. And it's like, man, you make boats. Are you telling me you can't sell me?
Seriously, yeah.
I don't know.
Wow.
But there's
how is it in Japan? How easily available is it?
There's the language barrier, so maybe there are sources that I don't know about, but getting it's pretty much like America. It's about $45 a gallon or so. And that's...
Oh.
So I'm...
Wow.
And I've spent too much, but I can't stop, so I keep, like...
Of course not. You can't stop. You can't stop. For me, the challenge is that it's kind of sounds strange, is to get the metal. You say, yeah. And that's usually not the problem. Usually, I know back in Canada, metal is just everywhere. You can get it almost for free if you just look around. So here, the metal, crystals, I got them by I don't know what to do with. They're coming on my ears. I got so much crystals. It's crazy. There are crystals everywhere in my life. And resin is super cheap. So metal is the only limiting factor.
Okay, here's what I did on that. I had the same thing. I've asked everywhere. I went to metal shops or machine shops, and I'm like, where should I go? I even put out ads like in the English language newspapers and looking for metal. And someone...
I did the same here. I posted on the Facebook. We have a Facebook group for all the expats, and then they gave me the name of some guy from New Zealand, but he didn't have any. So, anyways, that was my resource, and no, that didn't come through.
Okay, so I'd have to look through the. Oh, who was it? I have to look on my private messages. I can't remember who wrote to me on Etheric Warriors, and
Okay.
they said buy aluminum foil and put it through a
Yeah.
paper shredder. And I wrote back and I was like, well, has anybody who's energy sensitive looked at it? And they were like, everyone asks that. And I'm energy sensitive and I think it's great. And they were like, from one roll of foil, you can build a whole cloudbuster. And they said, I've built a cloudbuster out of it. It's great. And they said the TBs with it are great. So I tried it. I bought a cheap hand cranked paper shredder for $10, and I'm on like my third roll of foil now, and I think they're great.
Really?
I've been making TVs
Really?
with shredded tin foil, so for tactical devices, it's great.
Yeah.
And
Really?
maybe for personal stuff, you'd want real
Yeah, of
shavings.
course, but I'm really here. It's really for all the upcoming campaign here. We're going to be gifting a lot of the stuff here. So yeah, that was my only limiting factor, was to find the metal. Sweet.
Try it out, see what you think. I think they're great,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
and they're light too. So like
Yeah,
you can carry a little bit more.
that's true. Wow. Sweet. You should have recorded that part.
Well, I was gonna make a video and show people. So I was gonna make
Hey,
a.
we have dolphins here apparently. Huh?
Sånn bad landfall blir
Where?
expected catch.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we have dolphins behind. I'm told right now. So yeah, sweet.
Okay, well then tell us tell us about your gifting campaign. What are you planning on doing
Yeah.
there in Panama?
Well, I started some pretty interesting gifting a couple of months ago, which I reported on Etheric Warriors, that we have a couple of pictures
Yeah,
of
I saw that.
elementals and the results that we got. And it's funny because when I just got back here 2 days ago, and I was approaching with the small panga, which is like a small powerboat, which is like a taxi boat type of thing, and I was approaching Boca del Toro from the mainland, and I could see clear as day. I mean, this Orgone energy pattern in the sky. So I knew, okay, well, I gifted this area because it was quite. I knew I'd gifted the area, but I could actually see the pattern, the cloud formations in the sky. Knowing that, and we had clouds all around, and this big blue all around Boca del Toro as I was approaching, connecting, extending all the way to Dolphin Bay, which is like a 30-minute powerboat ride away. So I could really see this, and I said, okay, well, that area needs gifting, that area needs gifting, that area needs gifting. So I really know where we're going to go next. And to top it off, we've been having interesting chat sessions with Don, Carol, Dooney, and Francie these past weeks, and we've found some really interesting targets. These are things we don't really report. We don't talk about it on the forum, as I mentioned before. I don't really, so we don't really talk about it, and perhaps I shouldn't really talk about the targets that we want to hit, but we found some really interesting things nearby that really need to be done. So that'll be taken care of as well. And this area here in Bocas it's really not infested by towers, and it's not like obviously it's not like a big urban area, so it doesn't need a lot of Orgonite to have really strong, really powerful results. Being as well in a rainforest environment, in a tropical environment, everything reacts like really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the nature of anything that's near the equator. It's super strong results in terms of energy dynamics, like real quick. We have the Costa Rican rainforest, which are nearby and obviously connected with the Panamanian rainforest. It's not like the forest has a border and saying, well, this is the Costa Rica, this is Panama. Obviously, they're all the same. So it's an extension, and you know how much wildlife and how these are really like pools of natural really strong natural energies. I could see like the vortices here are everywhere, and some of them are spinning in a positive fashion, and others not. But so there are a lot of interesting targets in the area, and a lot of it will be done in the next couple of days and weeks as we keep on gifting. Now that I have the power boat, it's going to allow me to be able to reach areas that were otherwise not practical to get to with the sailboat. I mean, it's, if you just want to go do a little target here and it takes you a day to get there, just to drop at 10 TBs and come back, and it's not productive. It's sort of counterproductive. So with the power boat, then can all be done. We can surround all the islands and reach some really juicy targets that are nearby. And I have another target which is literally on the other side of the country. So that's something that I'm going to be doing really soon as well. We have a beautiful volcano here. So lots of interesting targets.
So that campaign's mainly going to be done through the boat.
Yes, because I'm not the type of person to actually go trek in the jungle here. We have scorpions and spiders and stuff, and I'm not a scorpion spider type of person. I like controlled environment, cloning tanks and stuff like that. So for me, being like going in the forest and in Panama, it's kind of with the monkeys and all that. It's really beautiful in a museum. Not so much in live. I mean, it's great to be experiencing all this dynamic, but I wouldn't actually go and start, on a trek in Survivor type of thing is not really my thing. So yes, by boat, it's direct, simple, easy, efficient. So I guess we're the Etheric Navy here. I know Don's doing his Etheric, how's he calling that? Etheric Air Force, or what's the name he's using? Anyway, so we're the Etheric Navy. We got the sailboat and the powerboat, and so we'll take care of that little corner anyways as much as we can. I think this is the key. Just do whatever you can, wherever you are. And if everybody was to do this, that would change the whole world. And we are changing the whole world in that sense. Obviously, need more. Help is always good. So whatever you guys can do, just do it.
Definitely.